Welcome back to the AllBrands show. We are live and we are talking quilting, and we're going to have a live giveaway during this broadcast, so stick around. And we're going to be talking quilting, cut twice, no, measure twice, cut once. That's the analogy. We're going to make it so easy for you to cut accurately and end up with a finished size quilt the same way that it's described in the pattern. Different techniques for that with a master, an author. We're taking a virtual trip to her studio in Indianapolis, and at the very end, maybe see some of her farm animals virtually too. If you can tell by my face, I absolutely adore this woman. She's a master. Her name is Kaye England, and I'm so honored to have her on our show. So here she is. Hi, Kaye.
Hi, Barbara.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Oh my goodness, it means so much. So,
Thanks for asking me.
So how are things?
Well, we talked about this earlier. Other than needing a haircut and not going anywhere and starting to talk to myself, thank goodness we're all safe and well. And that's the most important thing.
Yes. And welcome back. And welcome to any new watchers who may be watching. We'll just say hello to a few folks that are joining us today. Miss Trudy. Hi. Sandra Bro, welcome back. Leah Seals, hello. Luana loves rulers. I think you're in the right video today. Judy, I agree. We love Kaye England's patterns and rulers. And that's what we're going to be talking about. Hi, Mary. Hi, Kathleen. Hi, Anne. Oh my gosh. Welcome back. Patricia, hello from Southern California. And Jill. Jill's fun because she always says something funny during our videos. So thank you everyone for being here. And we're going to be talking about quilting and tools to help you achieve success. So Kaye England has a line of rulers that we're going to be talking about called Good Measure. And we have, do we want to announce what our giveaway is going to be later?
No, you're in charge. I'm just here. I'm just here to applaud or something.
Well, I think you have one right next to you in your studio.
I do. I do. I'm right here. Let me make sure there's no glare. Yeah. A set of the rulers with the DVD.
Yes. And that is so great that your rulers come with the DVD.
Yeah, if you buy this set, it does come with it. Otherwise, it is available as a separate purchase. If someone just wanted one of the tools, then they still could purchase the DVD separately.
Yeah. So I have a little preview of the DVD, an introduction to these rulers, if you'd like.
Perfect. Yeah. Then that'll give us a chance to discuss it.
Yeah. Yes. Okay, so I'm going to put us backstage and then I'm going to play the video.
Okay.
Okay. Let's see.
We have 21 different tools that we'll be talking about with you today. This collection is made up of 4 rectangle rulers, which is the 7x24, the 7x14, the 4x14, and a 2x7. In addition to that, we have our square rulers, which is a 4-inch square, a 7-inch square, an 11, and a 14-inch square. So there's 8 of our 21. Now we get into the real specialty tools, the tools that have specific jobs. We have our half square and our quarter square triangle in 2 sizes. We have our half rectangle and bias triangle. That gives us 6 more. Then we get into our degreed rulers, and we have 5 different degreed rulers, starting with a 15, a 30, a 22 and a half, a 45, and a 60. We also have our circle template, and then we have a side set triangle. That makes up all 21 of the rulers we'll be discussing with you today. I've chosen one of our strip cutters to discuss some of the features of this brand. And you can clearly see the words good measure, our little pink ribbon, the actual ruler.
Okay. Does that say made in the USA on it?
It did. It did. And, you know, we are proud of that. Certainly, I know that I always say that other countries have to feed people as well, but I am quite pleased that this brand is made in the United States. That's something we're proud of.
Too. And I love that it's called Good Measure. So what does that mean, good measure?
Well, some of your people watching might know the brand originally when it first came out was called Nifty Notions. And the decision was made to change it because this is one of the rulers that you notice the little pink ribbon. It is the only ruler in the industry that does pay it forward because a percentage of the profits from these sales does go to breast cancer research. And so that was one of the things they wanted to change the name, and the good measure just meant, first of all, they are 100% accurate. And people ask me periodically, well, are they kind of accurate? Well, it's either accurate or it's wrong. So there's really no discussion on it, but it is incredibly easy to read. And I think it's nice that you showed that little clip because it's a small collection. I mean, there are lots of rulers in the industry, and we know that your watchers and all the consumers have a decision. They can, I'm sure many of them own more than one thing anyhow, but it is nice that the collection is kept smaller, so it's very affordable because of that. And I am most proud of the fact that the company that owns the rulers, I merely did the design work on them. It is owned by Brewer, is that they are the ones that then make that percentage of the profits is donated to breast cancer research.
Oh my goodness. Everyone's saying, you're right. Mary says, proud USA, great colors and great
Yay!
I agree. Belle is impressed by 21 rulers. I agree. Patsy, so great, made in the USA, and I agree. And there's actually, this is a preview to the DVD that's included in the basic starter kit, which all of the links to these products are in this description of this video with the special pricing that we have going on.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I love the fact that the video, even if someone watching wanted to buy the video separately, it is incredibly well priced. So that makes it really very affordable as well. And there's loads of tips in there that perhaps would even be beneficial if you didn't have that exact tool.
Yeah. So it's good measure because it helps you to measure, but how does it compare to other brands?
Well, there's some unique features on this brand, and it's very difficult. I mean, all the rulers have certain markings on them, like your 30 degrees, your directional things. There's a couple of things that sets this brand apart besides the fact that they do donate a percentage of the profits. There is a little bit of a difference, and I think you're going to probably share that with them because we have the sight lines, the ability to actually see where to place your fabric, because part of my frustration as an educator is that a student buys a product and then goes, well, I mean, I can't cut accurate. Well, then I'd take that back if I had a tool that wasn't accurate. Sometimes it's the driver of the tool that makes the issue. But honestly, I have found, well, you're not the only one. And there's plenty of us that do that. And as I told you earlier when we were talking, there are days that I think we shouldn't even go in the sewing room on certain days, probably. But one of the things is you have to be able to see where you're going to place your fabric prior to positioning the tool on there, because otherwise, how on earth could you ever cut accurately if you don't have a vision spot?
Yeah,
which
so
is
I'll
the
cover
sight
up
line.
I'll cover up the brand name of this other brand of ruler. You can see that the lines are all straight. And when I found out about your rulers, which I'll show in the rest of the video coming up.
Did you get a set?
It's on its way to me right now, because when we scheduled this video, I was like, I gotta have that.
Now that is
so great.
Folks, I'm telling you, that's an A+ for me right there. We've sold Miss Barbara a set. That is good.
Yeah. So we do have a question. If they have the previously branded Nifty Notions one, will the DVD still be applicable to that?
Yes.
Okay.
The only thing is different. Instead of the code that says NN, the code would say GM. So the rulers are the same. There's zero difference. The color was tweaked just a little bit, but it's still the pink and green. But if she has the Nifty Notion, she is all set. Nope, she'll be fine.
Yeah. And Jill, we do have the same iron. Maybe we could talk about that a little later, because we're talking about how to achieve success in quilting, how to end up with the same
but we do
quilt.
love our irons.
Yeah. How to end up with the same size quilt as what you planned on, which is so difficult. So I'm going to show the rest of that video.
Perfect.
So we'll be right back.
That we're working with, and the fact that it's made in the USA. In addition, I want you to know that this brand has 2 colors of markings. It has pink lines and green lines. On every ruler in the collection but one, which is the side set, these have a job. Every pink line is a 1/4 or a 3/4, and every green line is a 1/2 or a whole. And in addition to that, one of the things that makes this brand especially nice is all of our north-south lines. That means any of our increments of a 1/4, a 1/2, or 3/4 have breaks in the line. We refer to those breaks as a sight line. In other words, the ability for you to position your fabric where there is no ink, and you have all of these really wonderful little lineup marks. If your tool that you're cutting with has a solid black or green, I don't care what color of line, running north and south on this strip cutter ruler, you can only cut to the left or the right of that line. I have the ability to cut in the center of a line on a ruler that has sight lines on every marking. The other thing our strip cutters have is even 16th inch markings. So I truly could cut a 3 3/16 inch strip if I chose to. And you might say, why would I want to do that? There are lots of elements in patchwork that require a 16th inch cut. So this is another bonus feature. Now, all of the other lines that live on here, like our directional lines, have jobs that many other brands perhaps do have, but these are exclusive to this brand, and that's what I'm going to be sharing with you as we make our cut. Now that we've talked about that, let's actually put that to work and show you how to make a cut.
Oh my goodness. I love that. Thank you, Kaye. And that's just a portion of chapter 1 of the 5 chapters of the DVD.
And what I think is so great about that is a lot of people truly don't think about the fact that it's like the old saying, like in patchwork especially, we talk about the differences when we used to do templates in the old days of patchwork, where you had to draw a line with a pencil, that we always said, don't use a number 2 lead pencil, use a 0.5, use a thinner lead on the pencil, because just the width of that makes a difference in your 1/4 inch. That certainly started coming to play for me in rulers when I'm a good sewer. I've been sewing most of my life. I started sewing on a treadle 100 years ago. And so if I couldn't get it right with good equipment and everything, it told me something was wrong. Once we started really looking at this and having engineers test, we realized that most of the rulers in the industry are not correct. And so even a correct ruler, if you can't see where that line is, it's a catch-22. So like you and I talked about it, the goal is to get the size block that your pattern asks you to get. And it's not that difficult. It just requires your equipment doing its job.
Yeah. So just looking at some of the comments in the audience, Mary says, you're so right. Those solid lines do create a great difference. And
good.
Becky says, let's see, never knew that. A lot of people are learning new things. It does make a difference. And Trudy says, it looks like the lines may be thinner too, but
they are thinner, but I never look at the line. I look where there is no ink. And one of the things that we didn't discuss, but I think might be important, I have people every now and then are going, I don't like pink. Well, for heaven's sakes, I mean, it doesn't make any difference what color there is on the tool. Whatever color it is, if you laid it on that color of fabric, you would have difficulty seeing it. That's why you should be reading where there is no ink. So regardless of the color of the brand that you're working with, if it's a black and white ruler and you lay it on black or white, you've got a problem. If it's yellow and you lay it on yellow, you've got a problem. So without the ability to see where there isn't any ink, I don't know how people get an accurate cut. I really don't.
Yeah. Kaye, talking to you makes me feel like a beginner again. I mean, I have a little bit of knowledge, but can even beginners have success with these rulers? Like I know that you have the DVD, but and then you have patterns as well, right?
Yes, the patterns, we'll show them in a second. I honestly believe a very, well, let's say a confident beginner. And what I call a confident beginner is someone that's familiar with their machine. Obviously, you better know where 1/4 of an inch lives on your sewing machine, not where they say it lives, where it really lives. And that's a test that's so easy to do. And that little 2x7 ruler that we showed in the rectangle, that's the one that lives by my machine all the time, because if I have to spot check something, it's my go-to, because it's got that same empty space, which lets me lay it down on my stitch line and actually verify that I've done this. I find it intriguing, as much as I teach or have taught, that someone will say, well, I can't believe these are wrong. All 26 of my triangles are wrong. And I'm like, wouldn't it have been smart to just made one and then checked it for accuracy prior to making 25 more? So I'm a big fan of checking things as you move along, because that's how you're going to know that you have all your ducks in a row. You've cut it accurately, you're sewing it accurately, you're doing all of those things. And I have, every now and then, I have a student will say, God, I got exactly what I was supposed to say. You feel like ordering a pizza. You're so excited that you got it. And I usually say, I expect it. Now, it's not like I don't make mistakes. Certainly I do. And I'm at one with my seam ripper, because I have to use it as well. But it's not because I've cut improperly. It's because I was a little lazy at the machine, or, just like the weather. Perhaps it was the weather that causes that.
So you're so right, because when you're piecing 100 pieces of fabric together, that little difference of not being exactly a quarter of an inch for your piecing is going to add up and make that finished quilt not correct.
Well, and I don't know about you and whether you hear this very much, or even about, it'll be interesting to hear what your viewers think about this. There are lots of people who still subscribe to a scant quarter. Now, I have an issue with that, but I'm not.
So
if somebody likes it,
what does that really mean for some first-time watchers?
I don't understand what a scant quarter is, because it's an almost, and people go, it's 2 threads to the right or blah, blah. And I'm like, you do know that the thread of fabrics in our industry have a different thread count on their bases. So which one of those are you going to count from? And who in the world's got a good enough eyesight to really see 2 threads to the right of the whatever? No, to me, there is no substitute. Now, early on, if I go back into the 70s and 80s when we were doing patchwork, probably the scant quarter came into play, I believe, and I don't have any proof on this. I believe that it was because our early markings on our tools were heavy, and we were using thread that was fatter. And so by the time you put the extra thread weight, and then you had that maybe a little bit heavy cut, you had to sew a little bit less to compensate for the fact that your cutting was inaccurate. I can't prove that, but if you needed to sew a scant quarter, wouldn't it make sense that the companies would make a scant quarter foot? Why would we go to the trouble of making a quarter of an inch foot? I make a dress and I don't use a scant 5/8 inch seam to make my dress. I use 5/8 inch seam.
Yeah, exactly.
That's just my take on it.
We're getting a lot of great comments, but I just want to remind everyone, oh my gosh.
Oh, now I love Patsy's comment. I can see Patsy. She said, so you're saying the fabric is in the middle of the line, not on the one side or the other? Yes, ma'am. That is the answer. Because think about this. If it's one side or the other, what is accurate on the tool? It can't be the middle of the line. Is the left side more accurate? What if a left-hander, typically left-handers and right-handers, will position the cutter, one will go to the left of the line and one will go to the right of the line. And it is typically the opposite of how you're handed, is where you'll position your fabric to read it. That varies, I find, between some lefties and some righties, but it's an arbitrary spot. It's like taking a piece of chalk and drawing it down on the board and then drawing another line an inch away. And if that fat chalk, there's no way in the world you'd be accurate on your quarter-inch seam allowance. It'd be a prayer if you were.
Yeah.
So
I love this one from Anne. She says, I agree. I feel like a beginner and I've been sewing forever. I'm going to blame those solid lines now.
Oh gosh, I like that one. That's perfect. That is, just blame it on something else. There you go.
Yes, Beverly. I love that they're made in the USA. And not only are they made in the USA, it benefits breast cancer research.
Yeah. Yes, it's breast cancer research, because one of the things the company decided early on that we wanted it, we call it a ruler with a cause. So the most important thing about the brand, I think, is that it has to be accurate. The second most important thing for me is that they are paying it forward, and a percentage of the profits from every sale does go to breast cancer research, mostly for free mammograms, that type of thing. But the company's heavily involved in that. Yeah.
Okay. So do you have any other suggestions for making a perfect stitch before we talk about patterns?
We could talk, we'll get into the thread a little bit when we talk about that, but I will tell you that I do think, and Barbara and I talked about this earlier, I think it's incredibly important that you have a good thread. I am a stickler for a fine thread. And I get a lot of pushback from a lot of people on this that are still piecing with polyester thread. I am working with cotton fabric for the most 99.9% of my sewing is 100% cotton fabric. I want 100% cotton thread. I want a bat that is cotton. I want cotton to cotton. Polyester thread is a fabulous thread. We love it for embroidery. We love it for its strength in quilting and loads of other things, but you couldn't give it to me to sew with. So I would encourage you, if you've been piecing with a polyester, to give this a shot, because polyester is strong. And that's one of the things we love about the thread, but it's also sometimes harmful, we think, for actually could cut the fabric. Now, I know a lot of people say, well, my kids will wear the quilt out before that happens. Well, perhaps they would, but I own quilts from the early 1800s, and you can rest assured part of that is because they were made with cotton thread, is what my belief is.
This is my favorite brand, and we just did a video with Alex Virinelli. Yes. So
I am an Aurifil fan. And the two spools she's holding there, I love her. Green spool is a 40-weight Aurifil, and the orange spool is your 50-weight Aurifil.
Yes.
The 50-weight Aurifil is my go-to thread 99.9% of the time because of it.
I just learned that the bottom was removable, like this year.
Are you kidding?
I was like, no, I've been using
it. There are people say it fell off. Well, it's supposed to come off because depending on which way you're feeding on your machine, it is that. But no, I'm a big fan, and I'll bet you have viewers. This will be interesting to see what your viewers think. A lot of times people go, oh dear, it's that thread that costs a lot of money. And I think it might have even been Alex from Aurifil. I don't remember who told me this, was that if a brand of thread, if you can't pronounce it and it's hard to spell, it's probably a great thread. And so that was one of the things that first brought me to Aurifil, was its actual thinness, its fine quality. And I always tell people that there's virtually no lint on that rascal. I'm telling you, you get some
like
lint.
Polyester, but it's
exactly.
not.
It is almost like poly in the fact that you get no lint, and the price point. I know that it is pricey. I found out what you guys are selling it for on your website. I may have to start buying it there myself.
Yes, we have all colors of the 50 weight. Which normally sells at $15 per spool. And I can't say that price in this video because we're not going to change this. This is our golden price. It's $9.99 per spool.
Okay.
So here's a, you see no lint, right?
Yes. Yep. I'm telling you folks, if you've never used it, this would be the thing I would tell you. It could change your work. That alone is how good it is. And back to the price point on it, a lot of people say, well, I buy mine at such and such a place and I get it for such and such a price. I actually, on that 50-weight spool, on a standard bobbin, now not on the new big jumbo bobbins and stuff, I could wind 18 bobbins on one spool of that. That breaks out cheaper than if you were going to Walmart and buying Coats and Clark or whatever for $1 a spool. This is cheaper.
Yeah.
Cheaper per meter. So don't skimp on good thread when you're doing your work. So your 1/4 inch, you ask me like for accurate work, I think your ruler is incredibly important. I think your machine can be all different price points, but it's got to be a happy machine. You have to know where a 1/4 inch lives on it. And Barbara, you know how I feel about straight stitch throat plate. I want a straight stitch throat plate on my machine, and I don't care if it's 5mm or 9mm. I want a straight stitch plate on it because it's set up to do straight stitch work then. If you've got a zigzag plate on it, your machine doesn't have a clue what you want it to do. You got yours. Good girl.
Oh, after our conversation, I was doing my homework. Yes,
I love it. I love it. Barbara was talking about how she was having some movement with it, like when she goes in, that she had to hold her cloth in order to not have it jerk left or jerk right. Interesting. That is amazing. And so we did a little tutorial online. We were chatting about this. Honestly, I don't care whether you're on 9mm or 5mm. That's your call. But you have to have that machine set up right. There's so many things about, especially on the newer machines. We have the presser foot pressure now. Virtually every brand has a presser foot pressure setting. Most of the things we've learned about machines, when they come from the factory, they're set up for a set job. And typically it's making a dress with polyester is typically how it's set up. So you have to do some playing with this. That's when you start playing with that presser foot pressure. But if you go into your machine and it eats that first bite and jerks that fabric left or right, in a classroom, I tell, and Barbara did this little test. I actually have them do that. Put your hands in your lap, go real slow, take 1 or 2 stitches. If that fabric jumped to the right or the left, you got a problem with something. It's not the machine has gone bad. It's likely set up. And my guess is you don't have your straight stitch throat plate on, or you haven't adjusted your presser foot pressure. Now, if you've got grandma's 30-year-old machine, it may not have that setting on it. If you've got anything within the last few years, I pretty well guarantee you it's got that on it. You found it on yours, didn't you?
Yeah, I played with loosening and tightening my presser foot pressure on the fabric on my machine.
And what'd you find?
So that when I put my hands behind my back, it didn't move to the right or the left. So there was definitely a lot of different things to think about.
And that's your sweet spot. That's your sweet spot. When you see where it doesn't move, you know now that every time you're going to do patchwork, that's where you want to be set. If you were making a dress, or let's just say you were quilting or putting your binding on where there's more weight, you might want to adjust that again. Mm-hmm. But people go, well, I didn't know I had to adjust things. Well, it's like the accelerator on your vehicle. It goes in and out. So you have these things you're supposed to be able to adjust for more perfect work. And that's what you should be. That's what I'll say kudos to AllBrands is education is so incredibly important. And when people say to me, what should I buy and how should I buy it? I'm going to tell you what you buy. You buy your dealer. Because your dealer and whoever is going to be your support team, that's what's going to make you a better sewer and get more out of your equipment. Mm-hmm. That was a commercial. We didn't even talk about that.
Well, I also think having the right tools is very important. And that's why I invited you on the show, because not only are you a master, but you have amazing patterns to get people started. So I've got these rulers. Now, what do I do with them? You know?
Well, we created to date, we have 5 patterns in the series that really kind of get you started with, and they are written exclusively for the ruler. So if you don't want to own a ruler, then I would say don't get the pattern unless you're able to figure out the conversion on your own, because the company that owns the brand also owns these patterns, and they're my quilts and my pattern, but it's written exclusively for the tools.
Yeah. So you have some in the background. I think you have most of these quilts. So after we show them the packaging and the specials, maybe we can show them the.
We could, sure.
Show them the beautiful, because I feel like the picture doesn't do it justice.
It is so tough to get something with dimension. As I don't care how good the photography is, it's very tough to make it look as good as the real McCoy does. That's for sure. Yeah.
So this is a pattern set, and we have this available in 2 options. You can buy just the pattern by itself, or you can buy it with the rulers that are used, the good measure rulers that are used to create this pattern.
Great.
Yeah. Well, yes, it is great.
And that's just basically log cabin work. But let me tell you, this is one spot that you'd better have that 1/4 inch seam allowance down, and it should be feeding well, all those things we just previously talked about, because Otherwise, you end up with a lopsided log cabin block where the outside row isn't the same as the inside rows. So it doesn't matter that it isn't triangles or anything. It's still incredibly important that you are sewing consistently in order to get a square block.
Yeah, and there's a lot of pieces to this one, so I can see
yeah.
that measuring is very important.
Yep.
So I love that one. Again, that one's lots of logs. And if you're interested in that one, you can actually type that in the comment section and we'll send you a link. Otherwise, it is in the description of this video as well with the special price.
I just saw Valerie said she's never made a log cabin. She's a chicken. You are not a chicken. You just haven't taken the challenge yet. So let's challenge her to make a log cabin.
Yeah, so that's GM 501. And if you purchase the combo, it comes with the 7x24 ruler and the 2x7, which are very great universal rulers to have. Okay, so the next one is Star Galaxy.
Yep.
What was your inspiration for this one?
Well, actually, what my goal was for the company was to start introducing the tools. And this one still plays on squares and rectangles, but it also introduces the half square triangle. So it's kind of like a little stepping stone to say, okay, I've gotten my rectangles down. Now I'm going to work on some triangles. So it uses the half square triangle and any of the strip cutters that you would cut your strips with.
And the 4x4.
Well, that little 4x4 is one of my favorite things. And a lot of people say, well, I just cut my squares with my rectangle ruler. We wouldn't make a square ruler if we didn't think it was important that you owned a square ruler. And it's because it has a box. So when you have to cut a 2 or 2.5 inch square, if you're using a rectangle ruler, you won't necessarily always have those cross lines in that little box. Even though I'm a real good cutter because I cut a lot, I still use a square cutter to cut squares and a rectangle ruler to cut strips.
Yeah. Okay, that one's gorgeous. The next one is Starry Cabin. Oh, I love it.
And it introduces, we still use the half square triangle. It introduces the quarter square triangle, which is the flying geese, which makes that center star. And then it builds on the strip work like the log cabin. So it's continuing to work on the precision to say, okay, I've got to have X size block. So I'm going to have, and you are going to be cutting a lot of strips. That's for sure.
I would love to make this with some white and really bold color fabric. I like the really, really crazy, colorful.
Oh, I do. Oh, I like it.
Ones. This is gorgeous too, though.
I work with the fabrics that I design for Wilmington, and consequently, my niche is mostly in vintage work. And I do love the vintage a lot. But I also I'm working on a batik quilt right now for the company that isn't even my fabric, and I love working with it. So I love the brights as well.
Yeah, I agree, Mary. These are beautiful stars. Or in a red, white, and blue would be so great. Americana.
That would be great in red, white, and blue. Yeah.
Oh my goodness, my wheels are spinning. So this one, if you buy the combo, it comes with is that 5 rulers?
Yeah, you can use the little baby set. There's 2 sizes. I think that was shown in that first video. The baby set of the half square and quarter square would make these little stars because they go up to 4. Those rulers go up to 4 inches. So even if you just got the baby set of half square and quarter square, you would be able to make this with any rectangle ruler, and that would be perfect for it.
I'm going to make this one in rustic red, white, and blue Americana and be confident that when I purchase these that I'm supporting an American company made in the United States. That's great. Oh, yeah. And I know you love gardening and I love gardening too.
Yeah.
Garden Medallion.
So yeah, that one's on the wall behind us, directly behind me. That's the quilt. And so the color is very, very, it's a lot crisper. It's like you said, and it just gets a little flatter when we go on paper. It's very difficult to keep the look. And this one gets into a little bit more. You've got some side set work. You've got the half square, quarter square, and you would need the larger set because the baby set only goes up to 4. So it does recommend that you have the larger half square and quarter square. And I love medallion work. Any quilt that's made on a medallion like that is one of my favorites.
I love that. Belle asked if she purchases the set, do they come with a pattern? Yes. So AllBrands, I think we're the only reseller that currently has the combos of the pattern with the rulers, and those are all.
You probably are. Yeah.
Yeah. If you're interested in getting the link, just type in Garden Medallion, and we will private message that to you, so you don't have to leave the video to get that link.
I mean, in retail, they're sold separately, but what AllBrands has done is put this package together for you so you don't have to guess at what you need. If you particularly like that pattern, then they've got it put together. And if you already have the tools and don't have the pattern, they can purchase that as well. Yeah. Correct?
Yeah, we put free shipping on the combos. So you save on shipping and you get it all in one. So that's great.
Good job.
I love it. And this is last but not least, right?
Yes.
Star of Hope. Beautiful.
And this one on the full set that we showed you up front, that's one of your giveaways. This particular quilt uses the half square, the quarter square, the half rectangle, and the bias triangle, which makes all the spiky elements as well as rectangles. So if you had the set that we showed in the very beginning, all 5 of those quilts could be made with that set.
Yeah, and stick around because we're giving that just the basic set away. But maybe I'll throw in the pattern too. Maybe I should do that. You think?
Well, hey, it's your nickel.
Yeah, I think we're going to throw in the pattern for the live watcher.
I think that makes sense because that's a great deal then. And these are really fun quilts. I've made almost all of the quilts more than once out of different coloring and that sort of thing. And they're really fun to do. And honestly, very doable, truly for even a beginner. I think they'd have great success.
And I love that. Yes, the patterns are beautiful. Awesome. Beautiful quilts. Rulers look so interesting to use. Everyone is loving.
Barbara, there was one question that I spotted a second ago. Someone said, does the patterns have, or do your rulers have a non-slip back? And I wanted to make sure that I address that. And on the DVD, we address this, where I am so clear about this. If it needed it, we would have put it there. We didn't put it there because I didn't want it there, because I am a firm believer in that. I personally want my ruler to glide happily on my fabric as I move it left and right. If it's got grabbies on it, and you can stick them on there if you want to, but if it's got that on it, you're up, down, up, down, up, down. I just move my ruler across.
So you can get those micro increments by scooting it, right?
Yes. And I am a believer in it's how you put your hand down on the tool. And we do a very clear demo of this in that DVD. Is you can't have your hand up in the air like this. Well, I'm going to snag a ruler now that you brought. See, like if this was on a mat and I had my hand here, here's how almost everybody in the world cuts. Their hands up like this. Well, you don't have any control. The minute that you drop your hand and you put a finger to the outside of that, and then that puts the ball of my hand on my mat, there's my comfort level. That's the thing that keeps this tool from moving, and then I can glide it back and forth. I have gotten a headache telling people, we know how to put the non-slip stuff on the back. I don't want it on the back of a tool that I'm working with. Now, if you have health issues, and certainly this is where you have to make decisions that work for you. But if you have a strength factor and the inability to flex your wrist easily, you may find that, okay, I'm going to stick some on the back of my ruler because it'll make it easier. But for the people that are pretty fast cutters and movers of this, it just gently will slide across that fabric without ever moving the cut that you just made. And that's what it disturbs me about those. People go, well, look, it'll just grab there.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want it to do that. I don't want it to just grab there. But again, you have to go with where your health issues are. And when I do have a student who says I have, then of course that's what you're going to do. You're going to do what makes it work for you and what's the easiest to get your job done.
Yeah. So
I didn't want to miss that. Yeah, I didn't.
I would love to go backstage and make you full screen, and then maybe you can kind of point to the quilts on the wall and which one,
sure,
is which pattern.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll be back.
We got to get the cameras. You know, I don't know anything. You remember how I'm not techie at all about doing any of this stuff.
Oh, so, and everybody give Kaye's assistant a shout out for helping with the camera work over there, which is so great. So, okay.
Yeah, because I don't know anything. I don't even know where to plug something in, folks. So, yeah, see the garden medallion is, and how different that garden medallion is in the color. I mean, it's got a lot more strength in the color, and that's the one that's, I'm going to turn right there. That's the garden medallion. Look at that. Boy, lots of half squares and quarter square triangles. And if you happen to like the quilting, no, I didn't quilt it. I have, my favorite statement is I quilt by check. I have a fabulous machine quilter, long arm quilter that does 99.9% of my quilts. So
let me know when you're interested in purchasing a machine, Kaye.
There you go. I'm telling you, now I actually can do moderate machine quilting, but my problem is always I have another quilt I need to make. So instead of, you know, quilting it, I just need to move on and make another one. And then on the one that's kind of in front of the iron, that is the Starry cabin that's kind of sitting right by the iron, like right there. Well, I'm pointing over my shoulder. See, yep, that's the Starry cabin. And that's the one that you could make with the little baby set of half square, quarter square, and or of course the larger set's always your best buy because it makes everything from 8 to 0. Well, I don't know that you'd sew 0, would you? That's Starry cabin. And then on the table in front of me is the Star Galaxy, is the red. And it's kind of laying down, so it'll be a little bit more difficult to see that. And then this is the log cabin. Log cabins continue to be one of my favorite quilts in the world because anything that you choose to cut and put in that quilt is happy in that quilt. And I also think it's a great exercise in how clean your work is, how well are you cutting and how well are you sewing. Now, I don't have the Star of Hope is traveling right now, so I don't have that one to show, but the pattern is a real good example of that.
Thank you, Kaye. Oh my goodness. So I know we had a comment about some of the irons. Do you have any other, like what do you think else is important for achieving success in quilting?
Well, you know, I have been, let's talk irons for a little bit. I do think the most important thing, obviously, is a good machine. And I'm going to tell you something. I liken, when somebody says, what machine should I buy? I liken it to what an old barn builder told me years ago when we were getting ready to build a barn. He said, you can't build a barn too big. And I went, sure. Well, I tell people you can't buy a sewing machine with too many gadgets because one of these days you're going to wake up and want it. Because when somebody says, oh, I don't need embroidery, I don't want embroidery, that's today. the next time you go to class and someone has done embroidery, you're going to want it. So I say buy the most your budget will let you buy when you're buying it. I was in love with a set model, and and even though I sold machines, I mean, I was a dealer for years and had quilt shops and everything, I still wouldn't move up the ladder because I was so comfortable with what I was working on. Well, I'm telling you, my advice now is as the lights get better and everything that gets better on them, it's just like your vehicle. All the new safety features that come out on your vehicle, I'm telling you.
Cruise control, they need that on a sewing machine.
Last week I was sewing and my machine had a little hiccup. I don't know. I'm sure it wasn't me. It was probably just the weather or something. And I had to stop and put one of my old machines back in because I had this project I was working on. It was like I went back 50 years because the light, I almost needed one of those helmet lights for like people who go in caves because I couldn't see, because our new light systems and all of those things are so valuable. And I know budget's a big deal. Look for the financing because virtually everyone, and I'm sure you guys have great deals where your financing is no interest.
Bernina and Brother is having financing
exactly
right now. So we're
Bernina's
having another promotion, a Swiss Miss.
Oh, that's right. I did just see that.
Yeah.
Well, and people will say, well, I don't like to finance. Folks, if you can use somebody else's money, I mean, I'd be using it, but I do think buying a machine that fits your budget. I always say, please don't let your children go hungry because you bought too much sewing machine, but make sure that you're buying one that does the job for you. So aside from the machine, I have always put a high value on my iron.
Yeah,
so
and
much
I told you before, so I have photos that I'm going to bring up of the ones that you're going to talk about because I picked your brain on what model she likes.
So let's show those first then. Other than the sewing machine, let's show those, and then we'll get back and I'll tell you what else I think you need.
All right. So here's the first one that you recommended.
Well, I will tell you, this is going from a very affordable iron into a high-end iron. This little Panasonic cordless is one of the sweetest little irons in the industry today. It's incredibly well priced. The thing I love about it the most, Barbara, is it's got two noses. So its point is in the front and the back. So for piecers to be able to just hit all those little nitsy seams, it's going both directions. And you could run upstairs and press the drapes if you needed to because it's cordless. I have this on my high-end iron because if I just want to do a real quick tap on something, this is my go-to. When I do my final ironing, we'll talk about that one in a minute. But if you've never seen this iron, I would say put it on your wish list. You will love it.
Yeah. And there's actually a retractable cord at the bottom.
Yes.
I'm not sure. Let me take out this banner.
Yeah, because wherever you plug your base up, you can you could set this on a table beside your ironing board and pick your iron up and go to the board because it's cordless. And it's got its own little cover and everything. And it is really a dandy little iron.
Yeah, really great iron. There's actually two versions of this. I put the entry-level model with the special price in the comments of this, in the description of this video. But if you're interested in the price, or the link, just type Panasonic and I'll send that to you by private message.
Right.
Yeah, so there's two models. I believe the version up from this has a enhanced sole plate on it.
Yes, there is there's a different sole plate on them, and it depends on what you're doing. If you're doing more dressmaking, you would probably find that very beneficial. I still use the original sole plate. It's still the one that I work with, but if it were your only iron, then you might want that. But if it just depends on how it fits in your life.
Yeah. So here's the next one, and that's the one that I have.
Barbara, this is where you need to do the singing. This is the
Yeah, so I'm an opera singer, and this iron is awesome. Yes.
See? Oh my gosh, they want you in Switzerland to talk about the iron now. You'll be in trouble.
I was telling Kaye earlier that my sister is an opera singer in Austria, and I was going to be an opera singer, but I decided to join the family business instead of singing for my supper. But she's quite successful over there teaching at the Mozarteum. So I hope to be able to see her sometime soon. But yeah, yes, this iron makes me want to sing for sure. And
so now are you going to show, you're going to show the videos on this one then?
Oh, I don't have a video, but I can show.
No, you're just showing the positions. This, what she's showing you here, this iron folds up. I swear a little 100-pound female could fold this iron up and roll it across the room. So people go, well, I don't have much space. This is a sweetheart of an iron. So
it stores up so nicely, and I'm so excited now that this iron has the auto off integration in it, to where if you're a sewer, you can have it on continuously. So I think the models that we have, we got them before they made that enhancement. So, but people that purchase now are going to get to take advantage of that.
No, your smart, you and your smart eye both have the ability to override. The only thing you do when you turn them on is you hold the button in until you get, hold the on button in until you get a beep, or it will shut off in 10, 12 minutes if it's not used. And the early models, like I have an earlier Laura Star, never shut off. And so what I love about this one is if I just going to do one or two quick things, then I don't bother leaving it on a permanent on. But when I'm working on a quilt, typically it's on permanently. So,
oh yeah. So what's inside of the board is actually a vacuum up and down. So it sucks the steam through the ironing board cover, or there's a blower. So if you're working with fine materials, it will create a bubble on the board so that you're not pressing heat onto the fibers and damaging the fibers. So I love this model. And I got to tell you how I got mine. Okay. Funny story. Last time I saw you in person was at the Houston International Quilt Festival. Which I'm so sad that it got canceled this year, but I totally understand. So I had a goal at the show, and I convinced my father, the owner of the company. I said, well, okay, so if we make our goal, you have to give me something. So I had my pick of the litter. Okay. I could have anything that I wanted from Houston Quilt Festival. And I chose.
Wow.
Yeah. And he said, okay, now pick whatever you want. And I said, well, you know, they had the 3 models of the Laura Star, which just starts at $999. Financing. That's like amazing deal. So this one is the middle version.
This is the smart eye.
There's a top of the line version, the black one. So I was humble and I picked the midline because I didn't want to ask for too much from my father. And I'm wishing I would have gotten the black because it has an automatic steam setting that it'll automatically put as much steam out that you need while you're going. And it teaches you how to iron through an app that's integrated with the iron itself. Which
it even Bluetooth connects. It has all the history of your ironing and when you should clean it and all of that. You can do the Bluetooth connecting on it, and that's really neat. But I'll tell you, Barbara, I have the same one you do. I have the Smart Eye, and I love it
me too.
Because of what I do. Because the difference in what Barbara's talking about, the Smart U, which is the black one, has a button that you can hit that anytime you move the iron, it will continuously steam in a forward motion. When you come back, it won't. When you go forward, it will. I can ask mine smart eye to do that. And typically that's what I do, because there are times I want it to steam and then there are times I don't want it to steam. But certainly what I love about the white one, the smart eye, is I love the line on that white cover. Your line down the middle. For those of you who like to sew strip sets, let's say you're making that, oh gosh, one of those quilts where the jelly roll quilt where you just sew a bajillion things together and you got to iron them. I'm telling you, that lineup becomes, with piecing, with 45s, and say, you can't believe how important those lines start to be on that cover. And I have, they make different covers, and I had one of the fancy covers, and I went, no, I want my little line on.
It's so nice to have that line.
And one thing we've learned, when this iron, I've been a user of Laura Stars for well over 10 years. I actually am embarrassed to say that I own, well, or actually I'm proud to say that I own 3 of them, because I have 3 different spots. So I never know when I'm going to need one. Yeah. But one of the things that is so important now, the iron has always been touted as it will kill 99% of any bacteria, fungi, anything in your cloth. And one of the things that we had lots of interest in at festival last year, Barbara, when you were talking about this, is with consumers saying, well, gosh, I make a lot of baby quilts, or I do this. Well, today, with where we find ourselves with this virus, it is incredibly important that any fabric, pillowcases, anything like that, it will, and it has been tested outside our industry.
Yes, I've seen the actual document.
Have you?
Microchem Laboratories, and I saw the scientists' tests on it, and it's proven to kill the COVID virus.
Absolutely.
On the surfaces.
Yes. And I will tell you that what I started doing is I have a pretty big collection of 19th century quilts. And after we talked about all of this and the fact that it does sanitize as well, I thought, you know what, I'm going to give most of my antique quilts a nice steam. And what I found, one of the things that's really detrimental to fabric, especially vintage like that, is it fractures so easily because it dries out. Well, I found that if I go back and give my old quilts a nice new hit of steam, sanitize them, I'm going to I have early 1800 quilts, that I'm going to get some more time out of those quilts for sure.
Yeah.
So that is one thing. And one of the, there's so many features I love. And you mentioned the board, that it has a suction and a blower.
Yes.
As a quilter, let me tell you, any of you who've ever put your finished quilt top on your ironing board and you're getting ready to iron, well, then you've got to lay into the ironing board because your quilt's going to fall off. The minute you turn loose of it, it's going to fall off. The suction mode on that is what I use when I'm doing patchwork.
Yeah.
I can put a full size, I don't make a king size, but a queen, and I can lay it on there with just the border on the board, pull the suction on and stand back, and it will hold the entire quilt on that board.
And not only does it suction, like it keeps it connected to the board, it also pulls the steam through multiple layers of fiber.
Dries it out.
Pulling everything down. So imagine like you're ironing your top and your batting, or, the sandwich of the 3,
There's loads of videos they can even go see. There's, if you were to probably go in and look at YouTube, you could find videos on it. But what's so great about it is it's a dry steam, and it provides so much more heat and steam than any regular iron can do. And it's a boiler. So it is my go-to for everything I do at the end of my quilt. Now, I might do my blocks and, as I move along, I might do those with my Panasonic. But when my quilt is finished and getting ready to go to my quilter, it's on the LauraStar. When it comes home from the quilter, I love to set everything with that, and then I put my binding on, and then I use it again.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that I don't weigh it about, for me and what I do, I swear I think it's about as important to me as my sewing machine is.
I would say it's more important, actually. I mean, I'm just doing a straight stitch, most of the time when I'm piecing.
Exactly.
So if I'm ironing, that I would think that that's more important because it covers more surface area of the quilt than the actual stitch does, right?
And it is a pricey iron. And when you tell somebody that, the very first time I saw one and somebody told me what it was going to cost, I went, yeah, sure, I'm going to do that. Well, I have 3 now. I will tell you, I'm not sure that I'd keep piecing if I didn't own this iron. And this isn't a commercial. You can't pay me to say this.
Yeah, me neither.
This is fact, and I have used it for well over 10 years. And the new one, I love the new one, which is the same one. Mine's sitting right by me, like yours is sitting right by you. But I have 2 earlier models that I still do use, but this is a sweetheart of an iron. If it can, and I'm sure you guys probably have financing on that as well.
Yes, it's available on the product page.
Perfect.
Yes, so all the links are in the comments. If you're interested in the LauraStar, the white one is the Smart Eye, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then the black one here that has the app integration with the automatic steam is the Smart U. So just type that in the comments and we'll respond with
and the sole plates are a little bit different. The Smart U has a little bit different sole plate than the Smart Eye does. So it depends. If you were a tailor and doing lots of garment, I'd say put the Smart U on your list. If probably, I mean, it's all about you need a demo. Maybe go in and get a demo and that'll be your answer.
This is the refillable tank that it comes with.
Yep.
That's the lines on the board. So perfect.
Yep.
You can store the iron quickly before you fold it up to put it away. Oh, and that brings us, do you have anything more awesome to say about LauraStar? Because the next slide's a new topic.
I mean, honestly, anyone who knows me, if anybody's viewing this that knows me, I mean, I always tell people, you couldn't pay me enough money to get me to say something I liked if I didn't truly like it. This is an integral part of what I have used for well over 10 years. And I think it is, has a big benefit to me and how well my work turns out. I mean, I can't make, if you've missed a point, I can't create a point with a LauraStar, but I will tell you that I can certainly do some squaring up and fixing with it. Now, points are a different thing. So you would find that the addition of the steam, the quantity of the steam and the heat is probably going to be something you're going to, I always say, don't even use it if you don't want to own it. Don't use it.
If mine was on, I would show you. It's like somebody turned the fogger on whenever.
It is. You could give yourself a facial across the room almost.
Yeah. So if you're interested in a demo, let me know, because I did over an hour demonstration with Philip Olchi that I'd be so happy to send you the link to that. And it shows all of the features of all of the LauraStar irons, which if you get the ones without the board, they start at $499.
Somebody just asked if it was distilled water or tap water. It loves, you can use tap, you're better off to not use distilled. I would use tap or bottled water, because the minerals that are in water, the iron likes in order to be able to read. So you do not want to use distilled water and don't need to. So.
Yeah. Okay. So that brings us to our next thing. I just went and fished up this image because we had such a great conversation last night about thread and needle eye size. And what do you have to say about that?
Well, I don't want you folks to feel like you're in a classroom, but I'll tell you, when Barbara and I were first talking about this, I think the more information we give out, You weigh it, whether it fits your life or not. You use it or you don't use it. But if no one's ever told you this, a lot of people aren't aware of it. Being in love with my machine, I'm also a stickler for my stitch quality. I want my machine to deliver a stitch to me that is as pretty on the back side as it is on the top side. Now, for those of you, especially sewing on 9mm, perhaps you're going to run across every now and then, you're going to call your dealer up and go, there's something wrong with my machine because on the back side, it looks like a zigzag, and on the front side, it's just perfect. That happens often, but I'll tell you what the big culprit is typically no one has made it pretty clear to you that it's important that the needle size you use based on the thread that you're working with is incredibly important. And this is what Barbara's referring to. She and I were talking about it. When I use Aurifil, 50 weight, the orange cone Aurifil, I religiously sew with an 80-12. And like you, Barbara, I most often sew with a universal because I'm doing mostly just plain work, and they're a little bit cheaper, and I throw them away after 8 or 10 hours of sewing, so I find it a little more economical. If I went to your green cone, your 40 weight Aurifil, I would not keep that 80 needle in my machine. I'd put a 90 needle in my machine. I would give a needle that delivers a good stitch for me. And that's the way you're always going to know is your needle and your thread compatible. Look at the back side. Does it look like the front side? If it doesn't, you either have an issue with you may not have your straight stitch plate in. If you don't have a straight stitch plate in, you're always going to get a little bit of a slant stitch on the back side as opposed to the top side. But I will tell you that your needle size is huge. Whether you like a top stitch or a quilting needle or whatever, that's personal. That's up to you. It's the diameter of the thread tells me what of the needle and what I want to be working with. So with Aurifil, I'm an 80-12 all the time. If I went to most any other brand in the industry, a 50 weight thread, I would regularly work with a 90 needle. I would not take another brand 50 weight with an 80 needle. I just don't think you get a good stitch. That's just my opinion.
Cool. Yeah, I'm definitely going to use that recipe. So 50 weight with a size 12 universal needle.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And then the pressure on the fabric too makes a difference as well.
Right. Double check your presser foot pressure. But one of the things, if you're in doubt about what's in your machine, just run a row of stitching. We did a YouTube some time ago, I don't know, maybe last year, where I actually used 3 or 4 different kinds of thread with 3 or 4 needles, and we did a close-up. I did white thread on black fabric, I think, so that you could see just making that one minute change, how it affected the stitch quality.
Yeah.
And people say, well, I don't really care what the bottom looks like. It's hidden. Well, what if you decided to top stitch? Or, I mean, it's ridiculous not to expect your machine to deliver what you bought it to do.
There's so many different factors that play into the stitch formation and even coming up with the perfect 1/4 inch seam. And, so this has just really, really been great. And I want to, because I am so excited about something that you just came out with, your new line of fabric. And we have already the
thread pack.
Aurifil thread pack for your black diamond. It's beautiful.
I have mine too.
Oh my
and
goodness.
I will tell you, this is the small spool on the put-ups, but even if you didn't, the fabric collection that Barbara's referring to was called Blackwood Cottage. But there was a block in the month quilt, and that quilt was called the Black Diamond. So that's what the thread pack that Aurifil made the decision that would be what we would call the thread pack. And when I did the selecting of the fabric, what I love about this, as opposed to some of your thread packs that are specific to the color, these are mostly neutral. I mean, They're taupes, and there's a couple of variegateds, and I love it. 99% of my bindings I put down with a variegated thread, because most all of your fabrics have a multicolor in them. So I have found that variegated threads gives me a cleaner look, and I do almost always put my bindings down by hand, the final step. And so with these colors, they're just neutral, so they'll fit. I mean, they'll just go right in your regular sewing for any kind of hemming or whatever.
I love that.
So,
can we zoom in on that? I don't seem to
yes,
have a picture handy.
I bet we can. I bet if I get the camera person there. Okay, and here's the thread. I'm going to turn it a little bit, see if this helps. Yep. And see, there's the taupey one. That is one of my favorite spools in the world, because of the fact that it doesn't matter if you're working with cream and beige and taupe and something else. You have all those colors, and then I love the black and white one as well.
That's so beautiful. I love it. And
all of those threads where you mentioned your large cone or your orange cone like you have, they all come in the larger. We just did this pack in the small put up. But certainly, if it's a color that you find fits your life and you love it, I say buy it in that larger quantity, because it's more effective or a little bit better price point.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I love it. So we're gonna do a giveaway.
Ooh!
Yay! And my computer's locked up, but I'm still working from it.
Now, I don't even know, how do you decide what you're doing on the giveaway? Do you use somebody that's been watching? Is that how you do it?
Yeah. So let's see, because my computer.
And somebody says where to buy the fabric. I never know who's got it, but it's Wilmington Prints is the fabric collection, and it's called Blackwood Cottage. You could just go on and do a search. So I never know where anybody can get that.
Okay, so I can't seem to show my screen because my computer's locked up. Sorry. So I'm going to look through the comments. If you're interested in the giveaway, which is the DVD, the 6-piece Good Measure ruler set made in the United States.
It's got the 7x14, the large half square, quarter square, the large half rectangle, bias triangle, the 11-inch square, and the DVD.
Okay. And I also agreed to include the pattern, which I didn't forget.
So all 5?
Yes. Yes.
Why am I buy one? Oh, wait, I have one.
I wonder if I can. Oh, here we go. Bruce Bolton, congratulations. Direct message me your email address, and phone number, and we will get that.
Now, I want to know if it's Bruce or if it's Bruce's wife watching with Bruce's name. Is Bruce the sewer?
Yeah, let us know.
We'd love to know.
Everyone's saying, oh, all 5. Oh my gosh. Thanks for watching, Kathleen. Sherry is so excited to find how she can make some of her blocks. This is an awesome project. And congratulations.
And we have loads of videos up on our page as well, like the YouTube, which build on the same thing we're talking about, of how to get a little bit better stitch, how to get a little bit better this, that are there for viewing. That's one thing we love about YouTube. They're just there all the time, and all you got to do is go watch it.
So tell us what's new, because the first time I read your bio, like years ago, I was like, I know I love this lady because she has llamas and goats and all of these amazing animals. And I truly love animals. Can you tell us a little bit about
when we
what's going
first
on
moved to this property? I grew up on a farm. We had cattle and raised tobacco. I grew up on a farm in Kentucky. And honestly, we lived in the city for years, and when we had an opportunity to get this property, there were 2 homes on it. My son and his family moved into one, and we just had all this land, and I wanted to go back on the farm, and I thought, oh gosh, I want some animals, and I was traveling a lot, so whatever I had, somebody else had to take care of when I was gone. And people say, well, why did you get llamas? My standard line on that is they were out of horses that day, but that's a joke, of course. I went to a little county fair, and the breeder that I bought all my animals from was there with actually the one girl that she still lives in the pasture. Her name is Adobe. Oh, look at that cute little thing there. Her name that's an alpaca. So
sorry.
No, that's okay. I foster some of the alpacas. Now, those are all my guys except the little white one in the front. I'm fostering her right now because look at those 2 little babies. There's a little brown baby, and that little brown one needs a name. So if somebody's got a great name for it, that's her own baby who's just 4 weeks old. The little spotted one that's got its neck right in front of her, that little one lost his mommy when she was being born, and so the mama, the white one, actually adopted her, and she is nursing both of those little babies. And I just named my breeder that owns them. I'm fostering them, but I act like they're mine. And that one, I named her Pippi Longstocking. Look at her little white feet. She looks like she has white stockings on. So I named her Pippi. And so she said, oh, I like that. So those are just some of the llamas. And then I think you have one of the goats, don't you?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, now the white goat with the brown head, that's a boar goat. Folks, if you're eating goat, that's what you're eating. Ruby Tuesday, that's my Ruby Tuesday.
Oh,
now
no.
the little, so stop eating goat. Those little bitty ones there, those are 1-year-old Angoras, and there are 4 little girls that just came here about a week ago, and we're going to foster them to get them a little bit fatter because we've got lush pasture right now. We're having to end up mowing, and she's looking at them like, did you really have to get more girls? Did you really have to? So
oh my God.
They're just something fun. They're actually a whole lot of fun.
Oh my gosh, we got some contesters for names. Quilting, Toast, and Pippi. Pippi Longstockings.
Yeah, Pippi Longstockings is the little orphan one that I just named. It's the little chocolate brown one that we're looking for a name for.
Oh my gosh, I love it. Do you ever have them because I actually have a loom and a spinning wheel here just because I like that. Do you ever get them shaved and sell them?
Well, I shear the Angora goats myself. Those little Angoras I shear. But the llamas, I have a shearer that comes, and oh my goodness, let me just tell you something, ma'am. I have a garage full of fiber. Because when I started buying llamas, I just bought them in different colors because I wanted a red one and a white one and a whatever and a whatever. So we have loads of fiber, and working with a lot of machine stores, if you have like the needle punch, the llama fiber felts fabulously. It is absolutely, oh, Brownie. I love Brownie as a name, and Chewy is a cute one too. Oh, Coco. Oh, I love Coco. I'm going to name her one of those, that's for sure. But I do have lots of fiber, and I do love to punch on it, and I do a lot of scrapbooking and journaling, and it will, even using the punch tool, I can punch through paper. So for those of you who are crafty and haven't seen the way the punch tool works on the machines, it is fabulous. Uh-oh, Coco after Coco Chanel. That might have to be her name. Uh-oh. Because I'm sure she's going to have a purse one of these days, probably.
So who's this little guy or gal?
That one was one that I fostered for a little while, and She was wilder than a jackrabbit, and she had to go back home because she didn't play well with everybody else. So,
oh goodness. So that's an alpaca. I thought that they were supposed to be sweeter than the llamas.
Well, I'm going to tell you, you have cats, you're going to get a kick out of this. When somebody says, what's the real difference between a llama and an alpaca? Now, this is coming from a llama owner. Llamas are really more like dogs, and alpacas are more like cats. Mm-hmm. And honestly, personality-wise, they're a little bit higher strung. They're a little bit, it's not like they're not adorable, but like my llamas are just like big old lumbering, and hardly ever get their nose out of joint. So they're just easier. And that's what they had that day, and that's why I got them.
Oh my gosh. I want to share something. I didn't give you a heads up on this one, but if you guys want to follow Kaye England on, I have to open it real quick. Hold on just a second because.
Well, that's okay. I'm looking at names.
Kaye England has, she's on Facebook and Instagram, and she has a blog, but I love one of the posts that you did recently on your goat. Let's see where he is. Oh
gosh, was it one with them fighting? Was it the video with them fighting?
You were raking the goat, but
oh my gosh, that was Clyde. Yes, he loves to be. Well, he'd prefer it be a brush, but I had a rake that day. So
maybe that one's on your personal.
I can't page. Remember. Brian, do you know where that was?
On Facebook. Oh, but it was so cute. I loved it.
Yeah, it is. We were doing some outside gardening, and he just walked up, and I was raking, and he just kind of made himself get under the rake, and I actually did rake him. Yep.
How funny.
They're all spoiled. They're like your cats or anybody's puppies or whatever.
Oh, they're over here. I'll show you my farm animals. You want to see my?
Oh, now wait a minute. My granddaughter from Pittsburgh just popped on and said hello.
Oh, hi.
Look at that.
So here's my. Hold on, I'll be right back, Kaye.
And Brian is putting the link up for where to find the video with me raking the goat.
Here's my farm animals.
Look how cute. I love their faces. They remind me of that one dog that's got those really spiky ears like that. There's a dog that's like that.
Oh, gosh. That is so funny. Well, thank you for letting us take a virtual trip of your farm.
Well, somebody says, do I spin the yarn or send it off? I don't do anything, honey. I just collect it. I just have a garage full and a barn full and all of that bunch of stuff. So I give most all of it. Anytime somebody's driving by, I'll say, you want some fleas? So if you ever find yourself in Indianapolis, call me.
I love it. Oh my goodness. So if anybody's interested in any of the products that we showed, please direct message AllBrands. I would be happy to answer any questions that you might have or help you with that. Because I was so amazed when I saw these rulers, and not only are they made in the United States, they go to a good cause. They were made by a master in the industry that knows what she's doing.
Well, they were designed by me. They were made by technicians. Oh, yeah. Engineers make them. And that's the difference between a lot of tools aren't necessarily engineered. And that's what makes it. Accuracy is so important to us in our product. And people say, well, what shouldn't we buy? I've never been in the business of bashing any other brand. I'm just going to tell you that if you're having difficulty, give these a shot. Give them a shot.
Okay, so I found something here. Just another little virtual tour.
Oh yeah, that's just one. Just enjoying the pasture. Oh yeah, that's just part of some of the pasture there.
Oh my goodness. And I want to find the one with the goat. Oh man.
Brian he put the oh, that's Ruby.
Oh, Ruby Tuesday.
Ruby Tuesday, she eats all the time, so I thought she should be named after a restaurant.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been an absolute pleasure. I have so much
Thank
respect for you
you.
and what you do and the things that you make. And I hope to have you on again sometime in the future.
Well, it was my pleasure. Thank you so much for inviting me. And I had a lovely time meeting your family and all the fine folks at AllBrands. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, everybody. Karen, you are so welcome. Thank you, everyone, for watching. Oh, my goodness. Have a great day.